Kalimera, good morning everyone. While I am actually at the moment enjoying my holidays in sunny Crete, top level chess is actually taking place in London for the second edition of the Global Chess League spectacular team event with world's best male and female players competing against each other. Magnus Carlsen, Vishy Anand, Hikaru Nakamura, many other top players are participating. In this video, we're going to have a look at the most spectacular game played on day one between Jan-Christoph Duda and Vidit. This is a game you must see. It's very spectacular and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. Let's dive straight into the action as Duda opens here the game with the move 1 e4. Vidit play the move e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, and knight f6. And after bishop b5, we have the so-called four knights Ruy Lopez. Very popular opening. It used to be back in the days. Nowadays, it's every now and then it has been played. Normal developing move. Black goes for the move knight d4. And well, there are many ways of playing. The bishop is still defended, so you don't have to worry about black knight on d4 taking it. Castling kingside was played. Knight takes b5. It's one of the main continuations. Another idea, in fact, is to kick the bishop away with the move c6. Interesting moment. First interesting moment of the game. As what is white gonna do with that bishop? Many squares to go to. And probably the move chosen by Duda, it's not a move which crossed your mind. As he drops back to d3. Why does he play that move? Well, the main point is that you are really intending to take the knight on d4. And after pawn takes d4, the knight on c3 comes under an attack. But with the bishop on d3, you're overprotecting the pawn on e4. So black doesn't get the chance to win that pawn. So now it's black who releases the tension here with knight takes f3. White takes back with the queen. It looks like the queen is looking pretty nice here on f3. Black played the move d6. And now the bishop even goes back to e2. That's also remarkable. Many moves with the same piece. But of course, you need to make some space for your d-pawn. You would like to put your pawn on d3 so that the bishop from c1 can join play. Now, I would say the position is pretty even. There are a lot of different ways to play here for black. You can get out your bishop to g4, or you can put a bishop on e7. In any case, Vidit played here this move, h5. Remarkable decision, but probably he wants to prove that the queen on f3 doesn't look great. Bishop g4 remains always a possibility. And now, after the move d3, he goes for the move g6. And that is also quite remarkable, as I guess, but I'm not 100% sure, that Vidit was thinking about offering the exchange of dark squared bishops, after which white ends up with a poor bishop on e2. Well, now this is sort of anti the opening rules. It's something you normally shouldn't really do, playing too many pawns on the flank. And well, white decides here to play the move bishop g5. So black doesn't get the chance to offer the exchange of these bishops, as white hits the knight on f6. Bishop e7 and rook ad1. White completes his development. And still, I think the position is acceptable for black if he tries to initiate the exchange of bishops. And one very good move, instructive move, which was not played, is knight h7 to attack that bishop. Now, after the exchange of bishops, that knight can quickly rejoin play. And I feel a bit uncomfortable with that queen on f3. It's still okay. I mean, white is fine, but same can be said for black, obviously. So back to the game, as instead of knight h7, bishop g4 was played now. But then again, I'm wondering, why did black play all these pawn moves on the king side? Here the queen goes to e3, and still you can just take on e2 with a pretty playable position for black. But now Vidit is the one who sharpens up the game with the move knight to d5. Absolutely interesting idea, as you do hit the queen on e3 with a discovered attack on the bishop on g5 as well. Now, if you do take on e7, then it's knight takes e3, bishop takes d8, and well, at the end of the line there is still knight takes d1, and many pieces are still hanging. Looks like black is going to emerge with extra material. So therefore, instead of bishop takes e7, pawn takes d5 was played, capturing that knight. Black is taking the bishop on g5. And now the move f4, beautiful idea. And of course, the pawn on f4 can't be taken because of rook takes f4, pawn on e5 is pinned. White wins the piece. So therefore, the bishop got to move, but bishop also got to ensure that white is not allowed to take on e5. So bishop goes back to h6, maintaining the pin on the f pawn, as it will hang the queen. So here, white takes the pawn on c6, further opening up the position. And after black recaptures, there is the move d4, intensifying the pressure against that pawn on e5. And of course, you don't want to allow pawn takes e5, because then the rook on the d file will immediately hit the queen on d8. So queen goes to b6. Fascinating position with 2 pins against the pawn on f4 and the pawn on d4. And well, that means that at the moment white is not threatening anything yet, but it's white's turn. And here Duda attempts to seize the initiative with spectacular move, knight a4, attacking the queen. And that means that black will have to move the queen. It went to a5 to hit the knight on a4. And what are you going to do with that knight? Well, Duda has a simple answer. Nothing. Keep that knight at the edge of the board. And you open up the position here with pawn takes e5. Queen takes a4 was played. It's a piece sacrifice. And before capturing the pawn on d6 with check, there first followed bishop takes g4. Of course, you got to take back. And now it is pawn takes d6. So here you see that white is having 2 pawns for the piece, for the bishop on h6. White is giving a check. You got to watch out that the queen will end up on e7 very soon. The king goes to f8, only move. And now it is indeed queen e7. And the king is walking away. King g7. And as I said, black is a piece up. But that bishop doesn't look really, really great at all. But it has this idea to take on f4 very, very soon. Now, big moment in the game. There are a lot of sharp lines, and it's in fact quite difficult to calculate all of this. In the game, Duda decided here to play the move queen e5. Apparently, a better option is to keep running with your d-pawn, pawn d7. And I want to show you one insane idea. This is computer stuff. It's something I cannot come up with myself. There is bishop takes f4. So you do capture the pawn, and you're threatening to take on h2 with your bishop. Look at the queen on a4, defending the bishop on f4. Apparently the line continues here with something like h4, removing the threat against the pawn on h2. And after taking on h3, white can go for the move b3, attacking the queen. Here again, the queen has difficulties to keep the bishop protected. If the queen goes away, the rook will take on f4. So there's this insane sequence that, well, the bishop sacrifices itself on h2. After taking it, h takes g2 with discovered check. And, well, you cannot take the pawn here. If you do take, there is queen to g4, and black is going to take over and win the game. However, after the move king to g3, apparently things are working out okay here for white. Because if you do take on f1, you're able to take back with your rook and create counter threats against the pawn on f7. As I would say, this is impossible to calculate, especially in this kind of games with a very short time control. Note that there is even no increment in this game. It's only 20 minutes for both players for the entire game. Let's go back to the game's position. As instead of the move d7, white played here the move queen e5 check. In effect, quite a logical move. As you give a check, you gain a tempo, and you keep your pawn on f4 defended. Now, the only problem is, where are you going with your king? That is something very difficult to answer. Well, first of all, should be pointed out that a move like f6 here to block the check, that is not such a good idea. It runs into the move queen e7 check, and after king g8, white goes for the move d7, and on the next move the d-pawn will queen, and it will be quickly after it will be made. So now I was looking at this position, and in general, when you complete your development or in the process of doing so, you would like to keep your rooks connected. So in effect, the move king h7 looks very natural, but it was not played by Vidit, and I started to wonder, why didn't he play that move? Well, I believe that he was kind of afraid to face here the move f5, because with the move f5 you're about to capture the pawn on g6 with check, and that will open up the f-file, and you can imagine that within a few moves that rook will either end up on f7 or f6 even, depends on how play develops. This looks incredibly dangerous, as the king will come under threat of the f-pawn. So it should be said though that black is doing fine. If he would have gone for this line, he should have found here this move queen takes c2. Remarkable defensive move. It's not about grabbing the pawn, but more about supporting the king on the same diagonal. As if you do take on g6, you can recapture with the queen, and looks as if black is in time to consolidate his position. But difficult to find, as I said. Instead of king h7, there followed the move king to g8. But now there is the move d7, and white is threatening to promote the d-pawn. Rook goes to d8, and white plays the move f5, about to open up the f-file anyway. Will not come with tempo if you capture on g6, is not with check, but black is now having a hard time connecting his rooks, getting both these pieces into play. For instance, if you take the pawn on f5 now, white's going to recapture with the rook, and with a threat like rook d4 to hit the queen on a4, and the pawn on g4, well, black's position is falling apart very, very fast. So black played here the move g5, trying here to keep the pawns in front of his king, not open up the files for white's major forces. So here white comes up with a different plan. Played here the move rook d6. The rook is coming in and has some very clear ideas. We were going to see very soon what's going to happen, as after the move queen b4, apparently you're looking for ideas to keep the rook on d6 under threat. White played anyway the move queen e8. If you do take on e8, rook takes e8, there is pawn takes e8. You get a new queen, and white is up in exchange with a massive attack still going on. So that is not going to work. Instead, black got to do something else. If you do play, for instance, king g7, there's also a very spectacular line I really want to show you, as white can go rook g6 with check. And if you take it, then there is another fantastic check with the move f6. The king can only go to h7. Then it's queen f7. The only way to stop mate for one time is bishop g7, but it will be mate anyway on g7, thanks to the queen and pawn. So therefore, after queen e8, there followed bishop f8. And now, this is your moment to think what white can do. Now, of course, you can take the rook on d8, and then probably the rook on d6 will be taken as well. Looks like white should be winning anyway. But much stronger, much faster way to get victory here is this move. Rook g6, fantastic idea, as the rook is on a square where it can be taken. Can also not be taken if you go king h7. Then I'm just going to take on f7 with my queen, and after bishop g7 it's mate anyway. So therefore, after rook g6, pawn takes g6 was played. Now you shouldn't feel tempted to take on g6 with the queen, as the bishop is going to block and there's no mate right away. But much better is the other check on e6, as it doesn't give black the chance to interfere with one of his pieces or escape with the king. There followed the move king to h7. The same would happen also after king g7. King h7 played, and then it is checkmate on g6. Only 29 moves. Very spectacular, crushing victory. And you can see that in the opening, black took a lot of risks, making a lot of pawn moves. Probably not the right strategy, but this is rapid chess. This is maybe even the future of our game. These shorter time controls, maybe even without increment. I mean, most of these tournaments, especially online, it's played with increment just to avoid this kind of flagging towards the end of the game. But well, this is also quite pure, not giving additional time for every move. Well, let me know what you think of this game. Thanks for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And now I'm going back to the swimming pool. Enjoy my day off. Wish you a nice day as well, and see you soon again. Bye bye.